Alright folks, welcome back. Today we're out here in the old bog shop. We're going to do a reloading video. This may be kind of a beginner's topic for those of you experienced reloaders, so if you already know what you're doing, you might want to go get drunk or do something else more entertaining for you. But if you don't know what you're doing, like myself, I have no idea here, learning as we go. Yeah, stay tuned. We're going to convert some 223 brass, Lake City brass in this case, but any old 223 or 556 will work. We're going to convert it to 300 Blackout. And for those of you that don't know, 300 Blackout it's a 30 caliber round, very similar to this. 223 is a 22 caliber round, obviously. So what we're going to do here is we're going to chop the neck off right there, just the neck, and leave all of this straight case wall that we can, because we're going to need it all when we reform this little section here to be the new neck for 30 caliber bullets. So that's the gist of it. So if you don't already know what you're doing, stick around. You might learn something, or you might watch me cut my thumb off. Either way, pretty fun, huh? Okay, so what we're going to use is this crappy little mini 2-inch chop saw. Got it from Harbor Freight for, I don't know, $34 or something like that. Seems pretty cheesy for that amount of money, but if we can convert maybe 150, 200 pieces of these 223 brass, we'll make our money back. So I got a bunch of these, and 300 Blackout is expensive stuff, so well, let's get started. I'm just gonna line it up here. I think a lot of people use a jig or something, but you know me, I'm good with eyeballing it, so let's give it a shot. So let me zoom in here a bit. I don't know if you can see that, but I've just got the blade lined up right at that very edge of the shoulder there. The shoulder is the tapered part of the case, so let's go ahead and fire this up and see what happens. Wow. Alright, I don't know how well you can see that there, but it looks like I didn't quite get just enough. There's a little bit of a taper left on here. That saw cut better than I was expecting. Let's trim a little more off and make sure we got it just right. Alright, that looks more like it. The edge isn't too rough. We got rid of the taper and no more. I think that ought to be good. We're just going to trim these 20 pieces like that. Then we'll take them inside, press them up into the press, which will reform the neck right here for 30 caliber bullets. So, I'll check back in with you when I'm done trimming here. There we go. So, we got our 20 pieces of trimmed down 223 brass. Right now it's just a completely straight case wall. But they came out alright. One or two are a little crooked, but that's fine. We'll fix them later. After we reshape the neck, we'll trim it to make sure it's the appropriate length, and that'll take care of any unevenness here. So, we're all set. Let's load these up, head back inside to the press, start reshaping. We will I guess, form this brass if you want to speak right, which I usually can't. Alright, here we are at the loading bench. We are going to finish reforming our new 300 Blackout brass. If you'll remember, we started with 223 and we cut the neck off. And now we're going to reshape a new neck for 30 caliber bullets. So we're going to be going for something like this. You can see the difference there. All we're going to be doing is putting that little shoulder in here, necking this down to .308 to fit .308 diameter bullets at least. So first step we're going to do here is we are going to use our Lee die set. We're going to start with this decapping and resizing die. These are already decapped here, so we won't need that, but we're going to resize them. We'll just put this here in the press, put the cartridge down in the shell holder here, press it up into the die, and inside of this die here there's a taper at the top that will form this into a 300 Blackout. Now we'll have, it'll be too long of course, but you're always going to trim to the correct length after you size anyway, so no worry there. Now these are, when I trimmed these, they came out fairly smooth, so I'm not gonna worry about chamfering and deburring, which is, you know, using this little tool here or something similar to go inside and just smooth out the inside and then flip it around and take the burrs off the outside here. So, but I'm not going to do that before we resize. I think these are smooth enough to go in and out of the die, so we will do that later after we're done trimming to the proper length. However, we are going to use case lube because we don't want these to get stuck in the die. When you're cramming metals together, they tend to get a little sticky. You can pull the case head right off as you're bringing the ram on your die back down. So I like to use this Lee stuff. Came with the dies, and it looks weird, but it's kind of waxy and watery, sort of separates a lot, but it works amazing. I've tried a few others, like this Lyman Quick Spray. It's nothing. I don't know. Nothing to write home about. It didn't work that well. Takes a long time to dry. Smells really bad. This is where it's at. Alright, so I'm just gonna lube these cases here. It only takes a tiny bit per case. And when you're lubing cases, you want to remember not to get any up on the neck, on the taper, because it'll collect up there and dent in your case as it gets pressed up into the die. We don't have to worry about that here because we don't even have a neck yet, so. But we're still going to go nice and thin to make sure we don't get pockets of lube causing dents anywhere on the case. Now, yeah, I'll do a few, and the lube on my fingers is pretty much gone, but that's alright. You don't need much. Just this residual lubrication will be enough. So. Alright. Now I just have quick change bushings on these, on all the dies, so I can pop them in and out. But if you've never set up one of these resizing dies before, what you're going to do is these dies have a lock ring on them, of course. So you're going to loosen up this lock ring. Then you're going to want to put your bushing in the press, loosen up your lock ring, bring your ram all the way to the top, and then just thread your die into that bushing until it touches. And that ought to do it. You shouldn't have to back this in or out unless you need unless you have very specific specifications. If you've measured the chamber in your gun, you know exactly how far you want to press that shoulder on this cartridge back when you resize it. If you need to press it back a little more, you're going to crank the die down a little farther. If you need to press it down a little less, you're going to back it out a little bit. And you just tighten the lock ring when you have it where you want, and then you're set. But you should just be able to screw it down till it touches the shell holder here, and you should be good to go for your standard brass. So let's get these going and see how they come out. And there we go. We have a neck, and as you can see, it is much too long compared to our factory 300 Blackout brass. So we're gonna have quite a lot of trimming to do, but that's okay. Better too long than too short. Okay, now that we have all the cases resized and we have that new neck formed, we're going to trim them down because they're way too long. I use the Lee cutter and lock stud to go in a drill to trim. There's many ways to do it. You can do it right in the press with a crank sort of thing. There's all types, but this is what I have. It works all right. So you're going to need your shell holder. Oh, this is a special shell holder, not the same as goes in your press. But this one is threaded to go into this lock stud. So these screwed together will clamp your case in here. You can put the whole thing in the drill and spin it. Now the case length gauge, that screws right into the cutter itself here. And that way, when you're pressing the cutter into the case, this little pin will go through the flash hole, and it'll butt up against the face of the lock stud here, or bottom out on this shoulder of the case length gauge. So that's how you're going to get even, consistent trimming every single time. Alright, so we've grabbed our cordless drill here. We're just going to tighten the lock stud into the chuck of the drill. Now we can attach our cases. Now I have found it's kind of hard to, if you don't get these really tight and you're putting a lot of pressure on this cutter, they will come flying out of the shell holder, and you'll mash your knuckles into it. It's not very much fun. So you might want to use a pair of pliers just to snug them up. We'll see if I can get it tight enough by hand. But basically you just put it in here like that, and we'll just push the cutter in and give it a spin. See, that's what I'm talking about it falling out. And since these are way too long and we've got a lot to trim, I think it would be smart for me to start cranking them down, I'll just use this. Alright. You see all those brass shavings coming off of there? So we just keep cutting until we stop feeling resistance. Once the length gauge has bottomed out, then there won't be any resistance on the cutter anymore, and we'll know we're good. Alright. Look at all those shavings. So we had a lot to take off. And as you can see, there's quite a lip on here from all that trimming, so we'll also have a lot to chamfer and deburr. I like to go ahead and chamfer and deburr while it's still chucked up. Might as well. So I usually start with the outside a little bit. We're just going to deburr out here until we're not feeling any sort of lip or anything. Now we'll chamfer the inside a little bit. Okay, we have a properly trimmed case mouth here. So one last thing I like to do just to polish up the outside is grab a little piece of steel wool, just run it over the case real quick, make it nice and shiny. Now we'll take it out of here. And give it a quick measure with our calipers. I believe 0.358 is what they come out to. 1.358. 1.348. See that there. So that's fine. That's plenty good. So we'll just repeat that process with the rest of these down here, and you have converted 300 blackout brass. Alright, grab some big channel locks just to make cinching these things down a little easier, because we trimmed them so long that we're having to take quite a bit of material off here. When we cut the necks off the 223, we left them too long. Next time I'll cut off just a little bit more so that we don't have to do as much work with this guy. Alright, one thing I am finding easier here when I'm trimming this much material off is to grab the cutter with these channel locks and place it down on the table here like this to get more pressure. It makes the trimming go a lot faster. And you can really hear the difference of when it's done trimming and the resistance stops. You can really hear it. Alright, we've made it to our last piece of brass. Nothing too eventful. All we really learned is that it's pretty important to get these things real tight in the shell holder. And then it's easier to put downward pressure on it than it is to hold it with your hand. So here we are trimming the last one. Chamfer and deburr. And hit it with the steel wool. Alright. There's our converted 300 blackout brass. Now the last thing we're going to do is throw them into the tumbler one more time. Get all the brass shavings and a case lube and all that other stuff off. So they've already been tumbled once, just because I didn't want to get the decapping and sizing dial completely filthy over there. So, but we'll do it again just to make sure they're extra clean, and then they'll be ready to load. Sift them out of the tumbling medium. Alright, and there we have our converted 223 to 300 blackout brass. Nice and shiny, ready for primers, powder, and bullets. I guess we'll see you guys next time when we load those things up and take them out to the range.